Welcome back to the Eat to Live podcast. I'm here with my co-host, Dad, and Dr. Fuhrman.
Hi, everybody.
And we are here to talk about all things Nutritarian and our favorite hobby of healthy living.
Right, because healthy living and healthy eating and being healthy is fun. It's fun. It's the most fun way to live.
I'm actually a funaholic, so I would fully agree with that. It's very cool. But also what people don't know about the Nutritarian diet, and something that I wasn't too aware of, is how environmentally friendly it is. So we know that you've recommended this diet a lot as a doctor. As a physician, you were adamant that people eat this, right?
Right. I had no other predetermined biases or reasons other than health.
It wasn't about animal cruelty. It wasn't about the environment.
No, I support animal cruelty and animal murder. I'd like to kill animals.
No, he doesn't.
I just didn't want to eat them.
Oh my gosh. Right. No, all jokes aside, we do not like to kill animals, right? We have dogs. We're dog lovers.
Right.
Okay.
But the point is that it's really, and a serious point, of course, is that it's nice that the diet that's most effective for slowing aging and extending human lifespan is also better for the whole planet, nature, animals, the
future generations,
world, the climate, future generations. So it meshes together nicely, that all these added benefits other than our own personal health.
It actually meshes together perfectly. When I was researching for this episode, I was diving into it and I'm like, did my dad actually talk to these climate change experts? Because what you're saying and so many things that you've been recommending fully for nutritional purposes, like rice, are actually what climate change experts are saying are detrimental to our planet. Right. So it really is unique how it ties into animals, the environment, and of course, why you recommended it in the first place, your health. It's funny, whenever my friends ask me why, because to them, a lot of them, I'm vegan, and I get into the details, and some of them know, but a lot of them assume they like to label a certain way. So, okay, call me vegan if you want. They ask me what my reason is, and it's kind of funny in the first place that you need a reason to just want to eat a lot of plants and vegetables when I feel like it's so natural. But I said all of it, but mainly the first part was nutrition, and then you realize how important it is for the rest.
Sure. And we have to get into the fact that we're in an era right now where we're witnessing the very beginning of climate change. And it's just the tip of the iceberg as to a hint of the destruction yet to come. And I'm very fearful for my children, you, grandchildren, and the future of mankind on the earth, because people are destroying the natural world and they're destroying our climate so that it's going to be hard to produce food, water, and pollutions that's going to have. Right now, pollution and these things kill millions of people, but when it starts killing major portions of the population, it has the potential to make people really suffer, have more tragic lives, and even the possibility of extinction of the human species with the suffering that's going to occur before that happens, where the diet we eat right now is not considered by most people as a component that's accelerating the destruction of our natural environment and a promoter of climate change, not generally seeing that. And I just want to put into you brought up rice, and I don't think people wouldn't understand the relationship of the fact that, we'll talk about that later, maybe add that on at the end so don't worry about that she brought up rice. We'll talk about that later and go over that.
But it is interesting.
It's interesting.
But I think that's why young people and people my age and even younger, I know even high schoolers, are so alarmed about the state of our environment, because we see these things happening. Like in San Diego, it's so hot today, and I know that's just going to heat up more and more. And then there's more storms, more forest fires. Like the forest fires in California are out of control, and that leads to pollution. And it's just so interesting that how great of effect it could have for the whole planet. So, I mean, it's serious, is what you're saying.
It's really serious, and people don't take it seriously because they don't taking their own health seriously. They don't think they're brought up with a philosophy, and they're become addicted to food and other addictive substances like alcohol, and their life becomes fulfilled by instant gratification and immediate satisfaction of dopamine centers in the brain. They become short-term thinkers. And now when you're an addict, you can't think rationally because your first primitive brain is out to protect its relationship with addictive substances. So and it dummies you down too. So people can. So I'm saying that the socialization process and the fast food generation has a lot of our people that are prone to nonsensical belief systems, and they don't realize the harm they're doing to future generations. They don't care about future generations either, because the more food addicted you are and the more drug addicted you are, the more narcissistically you're involved with your own needs, and you don't care about anything else other than your own personal instant gratification.
Right, because a lot of people who are older or even younger people might not have the really damaging effects. So you're kind of like doing it to protect future generations and to protect the planet. And so that's so outside of your solo bubble. But a lot of what I'm realizing and thinking too is people, even if you're not an addict, people want to believe what they want to believe. Like if you, like even me, when I was researching the list of foods, there's so many foods on this list and a lot of them are meat and I have no problem giving up meat. But coffee's on that list, and I love coffee. Coffee and chocolate are on the list, and they're not as high or even close to beef or poultry, but they are contributors. They have more carbon emissions than I would like to see.
Yeah. Well, let's get right to the main issue, which is meat or beef, and that even though there are a lot of things that are hurtful to our environment and promote climate change, that certainly eating meat and beef and having
lamb.
And cows,
lamb.
Yeah, even lamb. But cows are by far the worst, and lamb and sheep. But
let's back it up because I just want to explain. I want to get a little sciencey because I knew a plant-based diet was better for the environment, but I really didn't know like the science behind why. And I just want to kind of simplify and break it down for people.
Okay.
So when we talk about global warming, we're heating up the planet with the greenhouse effect. And we're creating it, which is normal, actually. In a perfect world, the Earth is very cold, and these greenhouse gases actually help warm the planet so it's livable. We can all understand that, so that's good. But now we're creating, due to farming, all these processes, transportation, due to modernization and industry and everything that we do, we're heating up the planet at an alarming rate, mainly from CO2, from carbon, and from methane, which we'll get into. And the food industry is a huge, huge, huge contributor, which people don't know.
Right. It's you can say the canary in the coal mine. What people do, they don't talk about it. Politicians don't talk about it. They're talking about electric cars and using less gasoline and more other ways of generating energy that aren't producing so much carbon problems, right?
Yeah.
Well, but nobody's talking about the fact that a major portion of this problem is what people are eating, particularly animal products, and that we're not going to solve this problem. And we're still going to have climate change that's going to keep promoting till create tremendous tragedy unless people realize that the whole population has to radically reduce the amount of animal products they eat. And if they don't, we're headed for disaster.
Well, there's so much that goes into if you talk about the politics of it. Because first off, on a governmental scale or on guidelines that the government's telling us, I mean, the food pyramid is not sustainable and not even healthy for you. Right. So, I mean, if you're getting the advice from the government, the first thing that I would ask them to do is change the food pyramid to actually help people rather than harm them. But that's just something I was thinking about.
If people are going to support that or actually follow it, we have to explain to people why it's better for their own personal health, but also they care about their children and grandchildren, usually in the future of the planet.
Yeah.
And this is something that this is something that people have to reach out and speak to everybody they know, because it has to come from the masses, have to rise up and say, no, we want to change the political, you can say, messaging and what politicians do, but we also want everybody in the world to just take action, to take action and save the world, right?
Yeah. Come together. People have to come together. And I feel like we do have the ability to come together for positive and for good, but some people are just so negative and are like, what's the point? What I personally do won't have any impact. And that we were learning that's not true. Yeah, we could have a big impact just based on what we eat.
Exactly.
And a lot of vegans actually get ripped on for being so like radical or strict or this, but if you're just plant friendly and eat less meat, that's also helping the cause to a great extent. It doesn't have to be 100%.
But the world has, of course, but the world has to eat radically less.
Yeah.
Radically less. And the amount of meat production and consumption is growing instead of shrinking. There's going to be a major change in the way people...
By 3% each year. I saw that.
It's getting bigger. Yeah, bigger.
It's been growing 3% each year since the 60s. And you mentioned, so I also saw a stat that I kind of liked. You mentioned that we have to radically change. And researchers have been showing that if if every single person on the planet went vegan by like 2064, that the food-related industry's emissions would be cut down by 75%. So if we all just went plant-based, we'd actually reduce our emissions right now to only 25% of what they are. That's like a huge take back.
Right. And if all the industry changes and all the use of gasoline changes and people stuff, all that stuff changes, we're still not going to solve climate change unless we solve this food thing, because it's a major part of the whole package.
Do you know I also read that experts say the food industry contributes way more emissions than transportation, which I thought was interesting.
Well, I just want to mention that this is not controversial or should not be. And there's 21,000 leading scientists have signed a petition that people have to radically reduce the amount of animal products they're consuming to save the planet. That's 21,000 leading scientists signed this petition. Wow. Right. So we're talking about
unequivocal evidence.
Right. There's an unbelievable amount of evidence here. It's not a controversial issue.
Which is funny because also on the internet, it seems they kind of like make noise, like anything around nutrition. They really do make noise, and you'll always read about and see something on the other side. So you just have to look at where you're getting these sources, where they're getting these numbers. And because I mean, I was laughing. I read that we'll get into fishing too and how that's destroying the planet. But then I pulled up an article that was like fishing is helping the environment. So they try to like flip the script, as they say.
There's always crazy people. There's people advocating a carnivore diet.
Right. I mean, it's just like there's polar opposites here.
There's always those people. There's always crazies out there.
And people just really have to analyze the evidence. And it makes so much sense when you break down the science. Like, let's talk about methane, because I found that really interesting. And Jacob actually knew about this, but I didn't.
He knew about cow poops, or cow foofs. Are they foofs or they poops?
Neither. You don't know this?
Okay. Oh, they burp it up.
They burp it up. Okay, so methane, and I was watching on a TED Talk that there's an environmental researcher, and she was explaining that methane is the #1 contributor to greenhouse gases, and that's what we should be taking action with right now. And she listed all of these ways that we can do that very smartly. But she also said the most is produced by the food industry, and that gets a little more complicated. She's like, that's a little bit harder to change. And I'm like, is it? Because it would be really easy if people just gave up a little bit of beef and everyone came together and did this.
They can't give up a little bit of beef. They have to give up most of the beef. They have to give up 90% of the beef. They got to get the beef. They got to get the beef off their plate. Let's just say, get rid of it.
I like that you're adamant about this, because I was like, push people in the right direction.
Yeah, but this is a crisis. We have an asteroid heading to our planet that's going to blow it up and wipe out half the population on the planet. And if that was happening in the next 30 years... Did you watch Don't Look Up? Did I watch what?
Don't Look Up, where that's what the movie's about?
I don't think so.
Oh, it's a good one. You should watch it.
But if that was happening, wouldn't we all get together to try to figure out a way to blow up this asteroid out of the sky and stop it from destroying the whole Earth?
Clearly, you haven't seen the movie.
Well, this is happening right now, and nobody's doing anything. They're just going to say, "Oh, let's just cut back on meat a little bit." That's not going to work.
Right, and so it's greatly reduced. If you follow a Nutritarian diet, then you will be helping the planet and helping avert this asteroid. Absolutely. Right. So yes, it's very interesting because cows and sheep and lamb eat grass, like not normal foods that humans can digest, and all these really harsh foods, they burp up, and it's kind of funny if you look up
They ferment the stuff, and they have a special stomach to use to digest those grasses, and in the process of fermenting them in their bowel, they produce a tremendous amount of methane, which they burp out.
A tremendous amount. That's the craziest part. And then if you look on charts and stuff, the amount of methane they're producing and putting out into the world is huge, making a crazy impact on global warming and harming the environment. And it's too much methane for us to have a habitable Earth. It will go downhill very quickly.
Absolutely. And that's why, and also they've taken down all the forests in the North America, and most of the forests in the jungles, in the rainforests, the majority of these forests are destroyed. And you told me earlier, there's so many destroyed that they could take up the whole continent of Africa.
Yes, there's so many pastures and cattle and places where they have cattle and livestock that if you put together all of the land that they use for cattle and livestock alone, that would take up the continent of Africa.
It's amazing.
Which is so much land. So much land. And they're calling that the land use change. So we're taking the Amazon and regions in South America, and we're clearing all of those trees, which I can't even imagine.
Those are the lungs of the earth. Those trees and those jungles produce oxygen. that counted the CO2 production. And so it's not just production of CO2 and fossil fuels, it's that we destroyed the jungles and the forests to grow feed, to feed the animals, and you have to feed the animal 7 to 10 pounds of food to get 1 pound of meat out of it. And that's 1 pound of the size of the animal. Actually, it's a lot of bone and gristle and stuff that isn't eaten. It's probably less than 1 pound of meat.
Yeah, so feed's a huge issue. We have this issue of farming where they're producing methane and using a lot of emissions. And then they burn
the forest down. And when they burn the forest to destroy them, to get them prepared for animal agriculture.
More smoke and pollution.
Now you have it's called black carbon or black soot. And the black soot or black carbon now has the effect to further warm the earth, hold on to heat, and then settle on the ice caps and accelerate the melting of the ice caps. And when you put an ice cube in a glass of water, if you lose half the ice cubes, the water still stays cold. But what happens when you lose all the ice? Then the water starts to really get warm right away.
So fast.
So we're seeing that the global warming is just happening very slowly, but once the ice caps are gone, boom, we're going to see this explode, and really destruction is going to be rampant around the earth.
Well, a lot of the earth won't be inhabitable in certain hotspots, for sure.
Yeah.
I can just picture that all too easily.
I know. Like Las Vegas is going to be a ghost town. Salt Lake City may be totally uninhabitable too.
That was interesting what you were telling me about Salt Lake City. So the Salt Lake is drying up, and
there's so much natural and unnatural, with so much natural toxins and poisons that are covered with the water, that if that dries up, there's so much toxins that will come out of the air that'll make so much pollution in the Salt Lake City area.
So people won't be able
to live there. They'll be
breathing toxic air.
Breathing toxic air, yes.
That's crazy.
So there's so much going on. And all these problems are going to be 100-fold worse if the ice caps melt.
Well, I want to circle back to something you said too, because I just wanted to break it down. When we clear the Amazon, which is a huge, huge rainforest we clear for cattle, so trees are able to take CO2, so we're able to take carbon that's heating up the planet and turn it into oxygen. So that's something that's amazing for us humans. Right. So when we remove those trees, we're removing a lot of oxygen, so that we're ruining basically the lungs of the earth. Right. But you told me, we were having this debate because we were going into if fish is friend or foe, if it's good for us or not. And I've read that a lot of people are saying, although people say the Amazon are the lungs of the earth, it's really the ocean.
That's right. That the ocean
also makes oxygen.
The ocean covers 70% of the world's land. The world's space is 70% covered by water.
Right.
And the phytoplankton in the ocean produce 60% of the world's oxygen.
Oh, really?
So the rainforest and the trees only produce 40%. And the destruction of the ocean, the heating of the ocean, and public fishing and commercial fishing, is destroying all the fish species, including phytoplankton. And so, yes, we're destroying the ocean at the same time. And you know that there's 70% of the microplastic in the ocean has been deposited there by plastic fishing nets, by commercial fishing. And when they commercially fish, they troll the bottom of the ocean. And they wipe away.
It's one type of fishing.
What's that?
It's one type of fishing.
It's one type of fishing. Yeah, they rip apart coral reefs and
the whole bottom
plants.
of the ocean because they're dragging the nets.
They drag the nets to the bottom of the ocean. They rip apart the old plants.
And they're calling those, when they're destroying that part of the ocean with all natural wildlife and stuff like that, they're calling it oxygen dead zones. So they're creating a dead zone of nothingness.
That's right.
It's like Finding Nemo when it's just that dark, dark nothing area.
And there's these bi-fishing, which means the bi-fish are the old fish that they kill. When they're trying to fish one type of fish for commercial use for eating, they're killing half of their kill is a species they throw away. And
not even fish.
Right. They kill 65,000 dolphins and whales a year. 650,000 dolphins and whales are killed in commercial.
I remember that.
And they kill about 50 million sharks. 50 million sharks are killed by that.
And you didn't mention any of the seals.
And the seals and the sea otters and the turtles. They're all killed.
Right. All by commercial fishing.
Right. And all this stuff. And by the way, running boats on the ocean and commercial boats are run by diesel fuel. And diesel fuel creates more black carbon. People think, diesel in your car, it's going to have better mileage. You're not going to burn as much, affect CO2 as much and global warming. No, you're just affecting global warming more with diesel fuel because it has more black soot that comes out. And the black soot magnifies the effect of the carbon sequestration. So you have, of course, we have diesel. There's not even any regulations the preventing emissions and dumping. So they have so much
Dude, my mind is
pollution
just blown.
dumping into the oceans. So we have the oceans being destroyed, the fish being wiped out, the temperature of the water going up, the phytoplankton being dead, the whales being killed. So both the rainforests and the trees are being taken down, and also the oceans being destroyed at the same time. So we're taking away both sides of the lungs of the earth. And we can't solve it by switching to fish, even though people would like to, because when you put in a fish farm of 2 acres, that's the same amount of waste produced by 10,000 people in a small town, just the 2 acres.
I know.
And they feed, and because salmon are carnivores, they feed them fish and shrimp and other, and they got to get 5 pounds of fish to feed 1 pound of salmon the same way. And then salmon are the most heavily treated with antibiotics.
I was just going to say the antibiotics thing, because you go to farming and then you're actually antibiotics, which are really bad for not only your health, which is terrible for your health, but for the planet.
Yes.
Because it's left in the ocean. That's
right. And the shrimp are full of MSRA resistant to now, are promoting these resistant antibiotic strains that lead to people getting infections. So both eating chicken and eating shrimp are major causes of resistant urinary tract infections in women. And people don't relate eating chicken and fish. And,
oh, really?
And fish to urinary tract infections. Yeah, the chicken carry bacteria, and the shrimp carry a lot of these bacteria that are dangerous too.
Right.
And
so they're very, I mean, you always told me shrimp were really polluted. So that you really think that.
Oh, yeah, they're really polluted with antibiotics. And then now the shrimp are, and also, of course, salmon, farm-raised salmon is not a clean food either. And it's not a food that's great for the environment. Of course, it's not as bad as beef. Well, you know beef is the worst because beef's a double whammy. They take down the forests, they put open pasture.
Now beef take up the most land.
They take the most land. They take up 10 pounds for every 1 pound production. And the beef, the cattle itself, produces a huge amount of methane as well.
And they eat a ton of food. A ton of food, and a ton of food that actually humans can eat. So they feed it a ton of grains and a ton, like thousands of, it's a lot of food.
If you want to eat that stuff, it should be special occasion stuff. As a treat once in a while.
I mean, there's no con. That's the thing that, like, this is a diet you've literally been saying saves lives, and now we're learning it saves the planet. So, I mean, it's a no-brainer. Plus, the way, even with like farmed fishing, I get it, it's fish, but even I mean, if you look up some videos about just animal cruelty and how those animals are treated, it's like, that's not healthy meat.
Yeah, of course. If you want to eat animals, you're much better off going in the woods with a slingshot and a rock or a spear, and going there
no guns,
and attack an animal, wrestle it down, rip it apart, and eat a fresh animal, eat a dead animal that you kill yourself.
You want to be on Survivor so bad, don't you?
Kill a rabbit, or kill a coyote, or kill a bobcat, or kill a. They're all beautiful animals, though. You know. You
know, people's argument of like humans were intended to eat meat, like lots of meat, like the cavemen and this and that caveman diet.
Yeah, right.
I love what you said, because I pictured medieval times of them all, like one person getting a kill, then bringing this kill to the table, and then it going around for a whole feast of like the whole village.
Yeah, they caught one little rabbit to feed 30 people. Like, they found one little bird. It was very hard for humans to get significant animal.
It was mostly plants that we ate in those ancient times. Yeah. And then when we started...
You know, it's not easy to get animals to eat in the natural world. You know how I know that? Because I'm a poop analyzer.
Are you sure you want to admit to that?
Like I go hike in the woods, right? I'm looking at deer poop and coyote poop and bobcat poop.
That's how you entertain yourself?
Yeah, exactly. Okay, I'm hiking in the mountains. And so the coyotes, which you think are carnivores, right?
Yeah.
Their poop has almost no animal product residue in it. It's almost all vegetation.
It's kind of disturbing that you know this.
Well, because I'm living here around with a zillion coyotes around me.
Right.
But the fascinating thing is, they're opportunistic. They eat what's ever available. It's easy for them to get prickly pears and food. And there's all over. There's food. There's wild artichokes. There's all this stuff in the woods that they're eating. And there's stuff that we can eat. I'm seeing all this stuff that I can eat in the woods. But it's very hard, even for a coyote to catch a rabbit. You know, even for that coyote to catch an animal product is tough.
And how it's so easy for humans to get meat, like snap at your fingers, go through a drive-through, pay $1.99, and to get a huge amount of beef.
Yeah.
That's weird to me. Like, does no one ever think, like, this is way too easy? What does that process look like?
Yeah, it's packed in a plastic bag, and they don't even see it as a live animal they just killed or ate. You know, they just see it as food.
It's so common. It's everywhere.
They blocked it out of their mind. But now they're hurting the animal, but they're hurting the planet, and they're hurting their own self at the same time. And isn't this enough to get people? We got to get people to the whole world to change. And obviously, a politician to say what we're saying here, he would never be elected, right? Because people are too attached to their own habits of eating junk food, eating fast food, and eating meat.
Well, it's like the expert that was talking about. She's like, in food, which we're not even going to get to food because no one will change. That, like, people are so emotionally triggered by food and not wanting to change their life, like their individual life. Like, sure, you can get an electric car. It'll still take me from point A to point B, so I don't really care. But do not take away my meat. Like, and if they just understood the education behind that, like, it's not serving you. It's not. It's harming your health. You better live close to a hospital. Like, what's the point? And back to my coffee thing. Yes, I love coffee. And because I see it's damaging the planet, I'm going to limit it.
I know.
Because there's other things that you can do. But giving up meat is the number one.
I'm definitely changing my behaviors to a degree because we can't damage the planet.
Yeah.
Because I have people, we love other people, and we love our, love people who aren't even born yet. We have a feeling for others, and you can't, and your life, your own personal happiness has to do with your ability to emote and care for the outside world and care for other people. Right?
I'm going to go out.
The more you feel for other people and care for them, the more you're happier yourself. And this is all about, we're doing what makes us happy, and what makes us happy is taking care of other people.
I do love other people and thinking about them and volunteering and all that stuff. It does bring self-satisfaction as well. Right. But also I do feel like you can get immediate gratification from just appreciating nature. Like right now, from stopping this destruction. Like when I go to Lake Tahoe or when I go hiking, I am floored and amazed by the environment. Like I literally feel like there's a reverence to it. And the fact that I feel like I'm protecting it makes me like selfishly feel good as well.
Yeah, the natural world is so beautiful and aesthetically.
How could you not want to take pride in that?
Our world? I do that too. I walk
around. It's like your home.
I know. I walk around and I say, wow, this is like so amazing. Our country is so amazing. So much beauty here. And if people are going to destroy it, it's like crazy. Why would you destroy this? But
I just want to bring that energy to people too. Like you can get, like you should be amped up on the Nutritarian diet, on eating plants. Like we always talk about, it's fun. Like yes, there are all these positives to doing it, but it's not hard. It's not like torturous. It's not like I have to feel like I'm giving something up.
No,
I feel like I'm doing it.
It tastes great, and your taste buds adapt, and you learn great recipes, and it's just as much fun, and you feel good, and you're aging slower, and you're not worried about fear of dying. And
like there is no con.
It's crazy not to do it.
Yeah, but I do want to dive in just a little bit more on the fishing topic because you're asked so much. I mean, we hear it. You need nutrients from fish. Fish is a very high nutrient dense food. You want to eat it. It's good for you. It has those omega-3 fatty acids, yada, 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 high in protein. Eat it.
Right.
And you do agree that fish has beneficial nutrients, right?
Right, and I'm more, since I learned about the effect of fishing, I'm trying to, because I would have probably eaten more fish in my life until I learned more about the effect on the environment too. Because if you're not thinking having fish once or twice a month is going to kill your health or so badly, but of course.
But won't it actually hurt your health due to the stuff, the antibiotics they give fish and the microplastics that are growing inside them?
Yes, probably. Like even the smaller fish, like you used to think, only big fish like tuna and swordfish and because they're too polluted with mercury and other toxic metals. But now even the smaller sardines and the coastal fish and the oysters and the clams and the shrimp, all these little small things are also polluted with microplastic. And microplastics are endocrine disruptors and increase risk of cancer. So there's really, all the stuff's heavily polluted nowadays.
Because aren't even humans who eat a lot of fish have plastic inside them?
They have about a credit card amount of plastics from
eating seafood?
From eating seafood, right. Plastic is the major source of plastic is seafood in your diet. Well, eating fast food too.
So what are these beneficial nutrients that people are so attached to in fish? Is that
one thing, as you know, a Nutritarian diet is a protein adequate or protein strong plant-based diet.
Yes.
Because I think most plant-based diets don't have enough protein in them. Right. And I'm an athlete, and I've been an athlete, a professional athlete, but I've been a amateur athlete who loves sports my whole life. And always did a lot of athletics and sports. So I want to have a lot of energy and strength. And I like lifting weights and lifting heavy and doing.
I know, it's not like you're small. You're not too thin.
But anyway, so I'm into this stuff. So I'm into making sure. So protein adequacy means eating things that are plants that are high in protein. You get plenty of protein. Hemp seeds, sunflower seeds, broccoli, quinoa.
It's a protein. It's a plant-based, protein-rich diet for sure.
Right, protein-rich diet. I've checked it out. I've measured the protein content compared to other plant-based diets, and it usually has double the protein. So you get plenty of protein in this style of plant-based eating. Oh,
can I just say one thing? Do you know that nuts and seeds have a negative carbon emissions?
Yeah, because they're big trees with big leaves.
Exactly, and
I know. So when you eat a Nutritarian diet, you're getting more food from trees. And the more trees that are giving you food, the better it's effect for the environment. So we're eating a lot of fruit and a lot of nuts, and fruit and nuts are the least amount of climate change.
Yeah, like they're the other way on the emissions.
Because you could plant more trees. I just planted 140, I planted 140 food trees.
But never forget something like that. Right. You love those food trees more than your own children.
No.
I'm just kidding. Don't tell the rest I said that.
Only some of my children.
Yeah, only some. No, that is so cool. It's like, that's why I was really joking that I feel like you talk to everyone, all of these environmentalists, because it's just so in line with everything that you've taught, just from a health standpoint.
Right. And you can have, everybody should be growing their food from trees in their own house, and they should be planting plant matter in between the trees and around the trees, some that require shade and things that lettuces. So you can plant other food between your trees that make it, we're talking here now about regenerative organic agriculture, which is the way we have to go in this country, in the world. People have to get into, so we're protecting our soil for future generations, and we're growing the right crops that don't ruin our environment, and we produce a lot of healthy food, and we're improving our soil, because here's the secret to Nutritarian living. It's better soil health, produces better food, produces a healthier person.
And better environment.
And a better environment, right.
Which is crazy because the soil is a contributor too.
Right. We have to we have to make good soils and keep our soils nutritious. And we've done, our whole population just we've destroyed our soils, we've destroyed our air, we've destroyed the oceans, we've destroyed our forests, and now our planet's falling apart, and we've got to go back the other way and regenerate these things.
Like leeches, like we're just like...
Yeah, we got to plant trees, eat right, and enjoy pleasure from nature and protect it.
And experts actually do say that buying local, like if you bought from your local farms, which I go to the farmer's market every single week, and now I feel good about that because that's reducing emissions as well, because it doesn't have to transport as far. And there's, so much that goes into it. But these fruits and vegetables I'm getting from local farmers, not to mention it's really fun to be that connected to your food. It makes you feel better about eating it.
It's fun to grow it too.
Local business.
It's so exciting to grow some of your own food and eat it right from your own tree. So I'm saying, if you have a house with a grass front lawn, get rid of the grass or leave it there if you want, but plant trees in the grass. Make your house a food production. Don't waste the land. Put more trees. Restore the forest and put food production. And then edible landscaping, and then grow food between and stop wasting so much on grass.
Yeah, right. You're saying grass isn't helping anything.
Right. So we have more food produced locally, and every person can produce more of their own food on their own properties if they're not in an apartment or condo.
Cool. If every area produced a ton of fruit trees and stuff, how cool would that be? That could.
Yeah.
That'd be really cool. But you didn't, okay, I don't want the listeners to forget about the fish. So people are just obsessed with it because of the omega-3, right? Is that it? Just the fatty acids?
Yeah, I think so. Just fish oil. And you know that frogs and reptiles and salamanders and insects have omega-3 too.
Oh, do they?
Yeah.
I actually didn't know that.
Yeah, people eat grasshoppers for omega-3.
Do people eat grasshoppers?
Yeah, they eat chocolate-covered grasshoppers, chocolate-covered ants.
Really?
Yeah.
So gross.
I've been, it's funny because I feed Rain a fig off the tree that's like bitten by a bird, and it has some ants crawling around it, so I'll throw it to the dog. I'm saying, is it okay? She's eating all these ants? And I'm saying, oh yeah, people eat ants.
Right. I knew people eat tarantulas, spiders.
Yeah, people eat anything.
Insects. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. I guess.
And I'm sure I'm eating some insects in some of the fruit I'm eating off the trees.
Me and Kara were getting so nervous hiking with you. We went on like a little neighborhood walk, and you found a fruit tree. I can't remember what fruit it was, but it was a naturally occurring fruit tree in our midst, and you just like picked it off and put it in your mouth. You're like, oh my God, this is the mulberry. And you put it in your mouth. And I'm like, don't just do that. It's so alarming because we're so used to getting food in packages, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. I'm trying to, as I get older, I'd like to learn more about recognizing food in the wilderness and eating more off the,
Yeah,
you know what parslane is?
No.
Oh, it's a weed that grows everywhere. And it's so good tasting and so healthy for you. That's rich in omega-3 fatty acids.
Oh, really?
And it grows as a weed all over the place. You could go out and just eat enough greens just from finding parslane growing wherever you walk. And it's not just in San Diego. It's in New Jersey. It's in South Carolina. There's parslane growing everywhere. It's a food that grows wild all over the place that everybody should recognize. You just pick it wherever you're walking and eat it.
Is that what looks like baby asparagus, like wispies?
No, they have they're shaped like a narrow at one end and round at the other end. And then it has a little red vine that this green thick leaf. It's like a rubbery thick leaf.
And you can just eat it?
You just eat them. I used to pull them out and throw them away, but they're great food to add to your salad. And
that's really cool.
So there's plenty of wild food around there. Yeah.
Yeah. But what about food deserts and places like that? Do you think if we as a society really started trending in the right direction, we'd be able to get more plant-based options to these people, more fruits and vegetables? Because, food deserts make it seem like when you read about them, they can only get meat and grains and all these
processed junk food and fast food.
Yeah,
that's right. We have to change the whole nature of the modern world. We have to put like land strips right through major cities where people can have, help with farming, and we can have indoor growing areas and rooftop growing areas.
And we just converted some of these like pastures and cattle farms land to crops that would take way less space. Like they said, 80% of the land used for food is for cattle and livestock, and they make up 18% of the calories of the world. So people would have we'd get much easier to feed the world on much less. Which is also a huge issue.
Yeah, people are starving.
I just think it's so cool that you created a diet that helps the planet, and really it's just a joy to see the potential that we have. Like I really do want to be truly an optimist and tell everyone there is potential for us to actually turn this thing around.
Absolutely.
And save the planet.
And you mentioned rice early on. Just before we close, we got to just clarify that. Rice is still a better option for the planet than eating meat and for animal products.
Yes.
But because rice takes huge amount of land and they flood it, and by the way, they use, and brown rice is high in arsenic because the hull of rice sucks up arsenic from chicken manure and from other pesticides and things. But in a natural occurring arsenic sucked up, but we recommend white rice is too glycemically unfavorable, and brown rice is too arsenic contaminated, so people shouldn't be eating a lot of rice. And we recommend people eat other grains like quinoa and teff and amaranth and other things. But in any case, because rice is farmed and flooded, it produces a lot of methane.
Right.
More than other grains do and other vegetables, other foods do.
Oh, it's a shocking amount of methane. It's a huge amount.
It's like 12% of the methane production in the world, almost 12%. And we're talking about so a Nutritarian diet reduces your consumption of rice, which also protects the climate change as well.
Right. I mean, it's fascinating. And I'm really happy to know that people are starting. I really hope people are getting the message and eating in a more environmentally friendly way, because it also protects your health. Really no con.
Right. All right, everybody.